Welcome, everybody, to the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show on the Grueling Crew Sports Network, brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies, Power Plus Mouth Guards, and Gridiron Mo. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. We are at Week 14, and my co-host, as always, Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing good. It's weird. It's almost like having a phone conversation with you, except we're recording it now. This is interesting.
Yeah, so you can't say all the bad words you usually say.
I'll have to be careful.
What the hell? Well, let's get started. Number one, I know that the CFL has implemented a lot of stuff that the NFL has just recently. You want to break that down for us and give a little opinion on it?
Yeah, they've effective immediately, no padded practices. There'll be a certain number of padded practices next year that they can do in training camp, and I think the early part of the season. It'll be like the NFL, and then they're also adding a bye week next week. Next year. Well, here's the problem with all this, and we're seeing in the NFL. In doing so to help prevent injuries, it's going to have an effect on the on-field product. We're seeing that in the NFL. We're going to see it in the CFL very quickly. Not being able to padded practice once in a while, really having to do that, it just brings the level of play down. I'm all for player safety, but I think there has to be a balance, and I'm not so sure that we haven't gone to the other extreme in both the rules in the CFL and NFL are trying to initiate with this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has gone to the other extreme. And if you watch the NFL, it's rough to watch most of the time anymore.
Yeah, bad technique. And this is the thing. And we did our NFL show yesterday, and we talked about this. And I thought about this after the show. In my opinion, by going to the other extreme, I think the opportunity for injuries increases because
guys aren't prepared to get hit.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're, once again, we have a thing in this world, and I mean it's not just the United States, Canada, it's anywhere where we think that we have to go to an extreme different direction to fix something, and this is another case, just like the NFL, where in doing so, I don't know that we're preventing as many injuries as I think. I think it'll be interesting to see in a few years. Somebody, I'm sure, will do a study on it, and it'll be interesting to see if this is helping.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it, society now as a whole is reactionary, and the CFL is like that. The NFL is definitely like that. The NFL, whatever way the tide goes, is what they do. So I think we both agree this is a bad idea. So there's not a damn thing we can do about it, so we might as well talk about the games from last week. We'll start off with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who were coming off a loss after a winning streak. They beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats 27-19. Canadian quarterback Brandon Bridge made his first start as a Rough Rider, had a big second quarter. Combined with the defense from Saskatchewan, they held off what has turned into being a tough Hamilton Tiger Cats team under June Jones. They get the victory at Tim Hortons Field. I mean, my thing is this. I'm impressed with the way the Ticats have at least got some fight in them now with June Jones as the head coach.
Yeah, they do. And this is has always been kind of a June Jones thing. I think everybody has always gotten caught up in run and shoot offense, and they'll come out and score all these points when he's been coach, but at SMU, when he was Hawaii obviously was the big one. But I think the one thing that people miss with June Jones is he has been a guy that turns around programs. When he took over Hawaii, I mean, they hadn't, they couldn't win a game if they were playing a Pee Wee team. When he took over SMU, it was worse. And if you always look at his teams, they always fight. even when they're outmatched, his Hawaii teams did that early on. They went to a bowl game in his first year. His SMU team, I think was 2-10 in his first year or something like that. But they were in an awful lot of games. Then the next year they go to a bowl game. And you're seeing the same thing with Hamilton. They're going to go out. They're going to fight. They're going to give people a game. They're going to catch a few teams, which they already have. And it sets up well. Now it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season go and how he builds his team for 2018.
Yeah, and Saskatchewan. Once again, I think it's going to be a dangerous team. They're playing with their backup quarterback, Brandon Bridge, 21 for 31, 3 touchdowns, no picks, a lot more than I would expect Brandon Bridge could do. Bakari Grant, I mean, they've got some wide receivers here. They can score some points. And I think the Saskatchewan team, if they get into the playoffs, are going to be a tough out for anybody.
Oh, he did a real good job of managing the game. No turnovers. Did a great job of putting the talent around him in a position to make plays, and they did that. That's the one thing about situations like this is you get a guy that can come in and simply, doesn't have to go out there and win the game, doesn't have to go out there and make big plays. Just go out there and manage the game, get the ball in your playmakers, and now you got a shot.
All right, that brings us to the next game. The Toronto Argonauts snapped a 2-game losing streak in an impressive fashion on Saturday, racked up 450 yards in total offense and a 34-26 victory over the Edmonton Eskimos. But, Brian, to me, the big story had to be Argonauts running back James Wilder Jr. He had a career day, leading his team in both rushing and receiving while accumulating 257 total yards and a touchdown. So now this team's just not Ricky Ray. You throw a little run game in here, they got a definite chance to get into the playoffs and win the East.
Yeah, when you have Ricky Ray, you're a dangerous team. Now you put some people around him, and now they become a very dangerous team. It's a team that can win the East, and you and I have said this on many occasions, many shows. Once you get to the playoffs, you always have an opportunity because you get hot at the right time, the right things happen, you never know. And Toronto is the kind of team that with a Ricky Ray, and now he gets some people around him that are doing some big things, you never know. I wouldn't say their chances are great. I think their chances to make the playoffs are good. I think as far as going to the Grey Cup, I not so much, but man, just get there. And once you get there, anything can happen.
Yeah, Ottawa proved that last year. I mean,
exactly.
There's no better example than the Ottawa Red Blacks of last year. Now, when we switch to Edmonton, there's got to be some concern. This is a long losing streak. Mike Riley played all right, 23 for 36, 2 touchdowns, 323 yards. But they have basically no ground game now. They lost John White. That's kind of went downhill ever since then. You're looking at a team that ran for like 50 or 60 yards in this game. They've become one-dimensional. The defense really isn't that good. I think the Eskimos are in a lot of trouble, Schmidt.
Yeah, right now they're scrambling to right the ship. But we talked about this back when they were winning. We all kept, with all the injuries and everything going on, we all kept saying, when is that shoe going to drop? Well, it finally dropped, went over the cliff and down the hill and everything else, because we're seeing now that Riley is a great quarterback, but you can only carry a team so far when you're playing with guys who, A, are backups to the backups, or B, are guys that you had to sign and bring in because of injury. There's only so much you can do, and that's what we're seeing with Edmonton right now, and that scramble mode to right the ship. Now again, if they can get some guys healthy and get back in this, they could be a dangerous team. But right now, that slope is starting to slide backwards pretty bad.
All right, now we have the Calgary Stampeders, as always, 8 straight wins now, making 8 in a row for them. They dominated the game with their defense. The Stamps picked up a 27-13 victory at McMahon Stadium, and they extended their impressive streak. But the thing that's concerned here is if you're a BC Lions fan, I mean, Jonathan Jennings seems like he's regressing instead of improving. I think he threw 3 picks in this game, played absolutely terrible. I mean, right now this is a complete team except for at the quarterback position, I think. Plus, I think a lot of the play calling is a lot of his problem. But, I mean, right now, Jennings, 15 for 29, 3 picks. I mean, I think BC's in trouble.
Yeah, they really are. And I think that when you look at Jennings, here's a guy that we've talked before, has talent, but when it's being overshadowed by very poor mental decisions at times, he's good. It seems like he's good for at least 2 interceptions every game. And you cannot win when you're constantly playing with your back against the wall, and that's exactly what's happening with BC. Their offense and their quarterback play is constantly putting their back against the wall. You can't do that against really any team in the CFL, but when you're playing Calgary, that's a death sentence.
Yeah, especially now that, I mean, you got Messam running the ball. He got hurt in the game. 7 carries, 40 yards. Next guy comes in, carry for 4. I mean, they run the ball well. They play defense. I mean, Levi Mitchell was 16 for 31, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I mean, the completion percentage is about the same as Jennings, but the difference is Levi Mitchell doesn't make those stupid mistakes to kill his team. And, I mean, this team's dangerous to me just because Mitchell, I don't think, has played his best football, especially over the last 5 or 6 weeks. They're still winning, and they're winning because of people other than Mitchell. So if Mitchell gets hot on top of this, I don't think anybody touches this team the rest of the year.
No, and that's the thing is he does such a great job of, he manages the game. He puts them in the right spot. But here's the thing. He's a guy that has shown that when he has to put it on his back, he's done that. Again, we always make comparison to Calgary to New England Patriots, but in a lot of ways, there's a lot of similarity there. Now, obviously, Brady and Mitchell probably not, but how their style in terms of Brady will manage a game when he has to, but when he has to put it on his back, as we saw in the Super Bowl, he'll do that as well. And Mitchell's the same way, and I think that if he gets hot and he really starts slinging it, as we've seen before, this team is virtually unstoppable.
Yeah, and that brings us to a team that has just lost their quarterback. Trevor Harris, of course, got knocked out last week for the Ottawa Red Blacks. But rumors of their demise were greatly exaggerated as quarterback Drew Tate came in, made his first start in Ottawa, and was effective until being forced near the end of the first half out of the game with the injury. The load was carried in the second half by running back William Powell, who ran for 144 yards on 25 carries. I mean, this, to me, even though Montreal may be the worst team in his league right now, it's still an impressive victory when you figure you lose Trevor Harris, you got a guy making his first start, you lose him, and then for the defense and the running game to pick up that slack and win the game, I think says a lot about the character of this team.
Yeah, and we've talked about their character on a few occasions. We've talked about can they win games like this? And early in the season, they weren't winning games like this. So this was a game early in the year they had lost.
Yeah.
So it is good to see that they did come back and they did win this game despite all that. They managed the game in the second half. They put the ball, ran the football. They did the things that you have to do to win a game like this, because honestly, this was a game that when your backup quarterback goes out, now you're on your third quarterback. That's a game that you're not supposed to win. I don't care if you're playing Montreal. I don't care who you're playing. You're not supposed to win that game. And I thought they did a real good job of going ahead, and they kept they kept a good. They didn't get rattled in the second half. They stayed. They ran the football. They let their defense and Montreal's offense is just not very good.
Yeah, Schmidt, Darren Durant had to be pulled. Didn't complete a pass 0 for 6. Drew Willie came in, went 12 for 17, 83 yards. Not much to speak of there. They couldn't really run the ball that well, even though Tyrell Sutton did 10 yards a carry, 7 carries, 70 yards. But a lot of those are, the defense is not really playing real tight because they've got the game won. What does Montreal do here? Do they continue to go with Durant, or do you think they should make a change to Willie?
I think at this point, I would think maybe you need to make a change, go to Willie. I think at this point, I think you've gotten maybe all you can get out of Durant right now. I think you've got to start looking, is Willie an answer? You've got to start looking at different things because Durant, who early in the year played well, I can't remember the last time he really played well. It's been quite a few weeks.
No, that's why this team's been the opposite of a tear. They've been on a tear going downhill. This brings us to the Week 14 games. I'll let you pick the first one. We got the Ottawa Red Blacks. Ryan Lindley will be the quarterback as Drew Tate's out. Trevor Harris is out. They're going to Winnipeg to play the Blue Bombers, who I think are the second-best team in this league right now. The Blue Bombers are 8-3. Who you like, Ottawa or Winnipeg?
I like Winnipeg. When you're playing your third quarterback, that's tough, and especially going and playing Winnipeg, because that is you're right, that's second best team in the league right now, and I think that potentially that they could overtake Calgary in a one-game situation. This is a good football team.
Yeah, very good. Complete football team. I'm going to go with the complete football team also here. I'm going to go with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers also. That brings us to the next game, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who do put up a fight now against the British Columbia Lions at BC. This game to me, the way Jonathan Jennings throws the ball around, I don't think this is a given, but I do think BC's got too much talent for Hamilton as long as Jennings doesn't throw 5 or 6 picks. So I'm going to go with BC here. Brian, what do you think?
I'm going to go the opposite way, and I'm going to go with Hamilton. And it's the Jonathan Jennings factor for me. Hamilton's going to fight. They're going to come in. They're going to fight to win this football game. And B, Jennings is just like I said. He's good for at least 2 interceptions. I think that this is I really feel like this is the kind of game where, we may very well see BC starting to take that slide, and I think this is a game where now somebody puts some grease on the skids, because Hamilton to me is a dangerous team coming in here, and BC is a team that I think is reeling right now, and their quarterback play doesn't help.
All right. Next game, we'll let you go back-to-back. The Montreal Alouettes, who may be the worst team right now in the CFL, and who would have thought 3 or 4 weeks ago we'd say anybody but Hamilton, will go to Ricky Ray and the Toronto Argonauts to play in front of 8 to 12 people. Who do you think wins the game? I'm going to go with Toronto. I'm just going to pick before you. I'll let you pick first. Go ahead.
No, I agree. I'm going to go with Toronto. Montreal just it'll be interesting to see if they make a change in quarterback and see if that helps. But even with that, I think Toronto is the better team. And it's funny when you talk playing in front of 8, 12 people. It's just funny how you can go back and they were playing in a Rogers Center years ago and just see 40, 45,000 people. And I actually watched a clip of a game the other day that was from like the mid 90s, and there was 35, 40,000 people, and now they're lucky if they get a couple hundred. Yeah,
13,000 was last week's crowd, which was better than a few of the other weeks I've seen. That brings us to the final game of the week. To me, this is the most intriguing game. I think it's the best game of the weekend. We've got the Calgary Stampeders on Sunday at 4 o'clock. We'll go to the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Brian. And Kevin Glenn, it looks like, will be back to be the starting quarterback for the Riders.
I even with that, I'm going to go Calgary, but I will not be shocked if Saskatchewan wins this game. I think they're also a very dangerous team right now, but Calgary is the kind of team that's going to go in there and they're not going to get too high, they're not going to get too low, and they're just going to play their game and they're going to make plays because, quite frankly, that's the Calgary way. They don't differentiate. You have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves generally in most games.
All right, I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to take Saskatchewan in the upset. Like I said, Mitchell's not played well. I mean, he plays well. He doesn't have anything great yet he's done. Glenn got a week off. I think he comes back rested. I think with these receivers, I think Saskatchewan can pull this game out. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think they're going to be able to score points on Calgary because I don't think there's any other teams in this league that have receivers like the Rough Riders. So it's not like Calgary playing BC and Jonathan Jennings. I think Kevin Glenn's played really well over the last 5 or 6 weeks. So I think the Riders will sneak this one out. That's my upset. So you got Hamilton. I got Saskatchewan. Do you have any final comments?
Oh, yeah, I am looking forward to that game on Sunday because, honestly, it may be better than some of the NFL games. So I think it'll be a good game to watch.
Yeah, unfortunately, my Bengals play the Packers at 4 o'clock.
Well, we know what you'll be watching.
Yeah, probably Calgary and Saskatchewan, at least by 5 o'clock probably. All right, we're going to go ahead. We're going to wrap it up this week. I want to remind everybody to come back on The Grueling Truth. Catch us next week. You can catch all of our shows, all of our articles on thegruelingtruth.net. You can follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Brian Schmidt, this is Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.